Good afternoon. All right. We're back today to work on our MCP server. Actually making pretty good progress on it. Given how little I've been working on it. I've really only been working on stream. Let's see, Alt Shift minus. We can split this. Although I've kind of fallen behind on writing tests, so I'm gonna have a little bit of makeup work to do. Hello, Suhas. How are you? You beat Network Bib here. That's pretty awesome. Way to go. Yep, you're the first. Yeah, man. Congratulate. We need to have some sort of community badge for like the first person in stream, you know? I don't know how badges or any of that stuff works, but seems like that should be something that people get, you know? If you're the first comment or chat in a stream, you should feel like you should get something. Revillo, hello. I think I'm saying your username right. Revillo? Maybe that's close enough. Apologies if I'm butchering it. I ran out of coffee, guys. We're currently in a state of emergency at the Freeborn household. There's no coffee here. I mean, there's coffee in the form of this protein shake, but I can't make any more espresso. So I need to... That's actually the first thing I'm going to do when my wife gets home from work is I'm going to go straight to the store and I'm going to buy a bag of coffee. Nice. Okay, cool. Well, if I ever mess up your username, please correct me. I do try my best to say it correctly. I don't always succeed. But I try. I try real hard. I actually wanted to show you guys... so I actually finally got... So yesterday when you guys were here, I was working on getting report data. And I got this working pretty good. I actually have a little... I've got it wired up to Claude Desktop. So I should be able to do something like this. Can you tell me what apps I have access to? And then I'm hoping it's going to prompt me to use my MCP server. So yeah, so I can say allow for this chat. And hopefully this works. There we go. Alright, so it connected. Yep, allow. Now it's going to try to get my apps. Okay, so I have access to a lot of apps. Now what I'm going to do is now I'm going to pull a report. Okay, so I'm going to say, can you tell me what reports are in my users app? Allow. Although I wish I didn't have to always allow this in Claude Desktop. I wish I could just say, hey, you can use whatever MCP servers I have configured, you can use them. Okay, let's look at the users by status. So I'll say, okay, get me the users by status report. I don't know, this is pretty cool. I mean, it's like giving the LLM arms and legs, right? I mean, this is a little pedantic the way I'm going about it, but I could see the value in this, right? All right, there's and it's kind of nice. You can actually see what the actual MCP server returned, and it actually gives me a pretty nice breakdown. And then I should be able to say, let's see, I should be able to say, okay, that was great, but can you get me the chart data that is associated? with that report. And this may not mean anything to you guys because you're not familiar with this on-spring product that I'm talking to. So you can see now it got the chart data, and the chart data is more like a summary. So we can see we have 1 active and 40 inactive. So yeah, we've got tools working, and now we're just gonna kind of keep building. We're just gonna keep building tools. So I think the next one I want to implement. I also need to go back and write tests for these tools because I've kind of gotten out of my TDD practice. So let's see. So let's jump down here. This was the last one we implemented, which was get report data. This is the last tool we implemented. So if we look at this API, there's one tool that's actually going to be kind of complex, but I think it will be very helpful from a user perspective. So let me go to the API docs. Also, if you're new to MCP, I think the best way you can think of like building an MCP server, the best way you can think about it is basically just think about it as you're building an abstraction layer over the top of something that's already in existence, right? So you're building like, I mean, you can build something new underneath the server, but like, you know, you build an MCP server that interacts with the file system, right? That the MCP server is like this LLM abstraction that sits over the top of the existing file system API. I think that's a good mental model to use. So in this case, one of the things this API lets me do is it lets me get all the records for an app, but it also lets me use a query. Like I can actually search against records. Yeah, Suhas, API for AI. Yep, agree. So it lets me query. So it lets me basically get records by query, right? And it has a whole kind of like filter syntax that you use to do this. So the tricky part, right, is communicating to the LLM the proper way to query for records. And I'm not really certain I have a good solution. So I think I'm just going to kind of code my way through the problem. I'm going to try to just kind of explore the problem through code. Because basically somehow I need the LLM to tell me the app that it wants to search for, and in this case I'll have the LLM give me the app name and I'll look up the app ID. But for the filter is the interesting part, because the filter just is going to ends up being a string that looks like this, right? So you have a field ID, you have an operator, and then you have the properly constructed like value for that particular operator. But some operators are only valid for some fields, right? So I sort of almost need the LLM to know about all of this text, right? I need it to know the type of field that it wants to search and what operators are valid for that type of field. Yeah. And the only way you can really communicate to the LLM what's valid is through the description of the tool. So if you go to the server, so ask, what is the problem again? So the problem is basically, it's not really a problem, it's so much as just what's the right ergonomics? What's the right way to write this MCP tool to allow it to do something? So like what I want the LLM to do is I want the LLM to be able to, you know, if a user, like in this example over here, if I say something like, please get me the user named Steven, right? I want it to be able to build a query through this API to reach into the user's app and get that record that matches that criteria. And there might be more than one record. It could be multiple records. In which case, the LLM needs to know how to properly construct the query. And so the only way you really have to tell the API information is you have to use this description in your server. And so far my descriptions have been pretty succinct, but I think for this one I'm gonna need like a more verbose description. I mean, obviously you can return error messages to the LLM, right? Whenever the LLM does something or generates an input that isn't quite valid, you can always return error messages. I wonder if I could use some sort of Zod validation for this. Like, does Zod support like conditional? Let's see, Zod conditional validation. Like, I'm wondering if I could model. Let's see. Going back to this API documentation, I'm wondering if I could model the constraints of the filter with types. So yeah, get records query. Let's look at the job. So I do have this modeled, like I do have a query filter. I do have a model that represents these filters. But that's not really going to be helpful to the LLM. So I'm wondering if I can model some of this with like a Zod schema, right? Where I could say, hey, if it's a text field, yeah, I don't know. All right, I think I need to write some code to really think through this. Suhas, Steven, look. I'm looking, man. I'm looking. What do you want me to look at? Oh, general in Discord? How come you posted that in the Discord, Suhas? Just to try to get Network Bib's attention, I guess. I think what I need to do is I think I need to write a little bit of code to clarify this problem. So let's start by just adding a tool. Server tool. And the name of this tool, which it's kind of interesting, the TypeScript SDK. I'm not sure if this is a MCP thing, but your tool names all have to be I think they have to be kebab case. Or at least they have to not... Yeah, I think they have to be kebab case. Olama Python. Yeah, I don't think that's going to help me, man. I'm not doing anything in Python right now. But that's cool that Olama now has some SDK libraries around it. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Not get records. We want to query records. And we're going to say queries records from a specific app. Yeah, so this is where I need to be a little bit more verbose, though, with my description, right? And I don't know what I'm going to put here. But I basically need to put some extra information that's like, in order to query for records. So I'll figure out what I want to put there, but there needs to be more. There needs to be more to that description. And then, or I wonder if I yeah, I mean, I know Suhas, I know how to describe It's that's not really helpful for what I'm doing though. Like I know there's underlying, because like what you're showing in Discord is you're showing JSON schema. So JSON schema has support for that type of conditional required stuff. But we're using the MCP SDK for TypeScript, and it's not quite the same. So I don't know if I want to try to do this through the Zod validator or if I'm going to do this myself. We're going to see though. I don't know. That's why I think I need to build it a little bit to kind of figure out where my understanding breaks down. So we're going to have app name. We're going to have fields. We should probably have page number. So this endpoint is going to return, or this tool is going to return a similar structured response to the get records tool. So it's going to take a lot of the same information. It just is going to be filtered, right? It's going to have a filter applied to it. So I think I can just reuse most of this. Actually, let me just copy that. I'm just going to copy that. Copy pasta. Copy pasta. Look at me, Ma. I'm coding. Alright, and then we'll have page number. We'll have pages and numbers. And then ultimately we'll have a tool, which we don't have defined yet. It'll be something like tool equals query records tool, and that will capture that, and then it's going to return the tool, or it's going to call the tool and return the response. So this needs one more. So this is where the filter thing comes into play, which is what Suhas and I was talking about, like the best way to handle the complexities of constructing the filter. Yeah. So I'm wondering, though, I'm kind of at this point now, I'm kind of thinking, should I make it simple? Determines if the field is not null, which is basically determines if it's not empty or if it is empty. Hello, Toad Sage. How are you doing today, man? Good to see you. I gotta turn the ISO down on my camera. It's getting a little... Oh, Toad Sage, you retracted your message, man? I don't know. That was a good message. Hold on. Was it getting a little bright there? Hello, Toad Sage. How have you been, man? You been doing well? Doing any freelance work? Doing the side hustles? I guess that's your main hustle, isn't it? It's not really your side hustle. Oh, you misspelled my name. Oh, no worry about that, dude. Don't ever worry about that. People misspell my name all the time. All the time. We can blame my mom. Blame my mom and dad, right? Like, if you ever misspell my name, just be like, Mom, Dad, you should have spelled it correctly. It's actually, my mom's name is the reason why my name is spelled funny. So my name is pronounced Steven, but it's EVA because my mom's name is Eva. And so they thought it would be fun to put my mom's name in my name. They did the same thing to my sister too, so I wasn't the only victim of this tragedy. My sister's name is Erica, and so they put, instead of spelling it ERICA, they spelled it ERICKA because my dad's name's Rick. So it's a whole thing. No freelance, but doing... Oh, okay. Yeah, is that? Oh, I guess side hustle. It is kind of a side hustle because you're in university, right, Toad Sage? If I remember right. I told you about getting PR. What'd you get a PR on? Oh boy. I'm wondering if I do some translation for this a little bit, for the filter aspect of this. Oh yes, yes, yes. You did tell me that. I thought you didn't. You say you were working on that for your family too. Also, Suhas. Those are intense names, and I don't think I can pronounce. I can't pronounce the last three you posted. I can pronounce the first three. So Suhas, Srihas, Sahas. But the last three, I would probably butcher them if I attempted. And I probably butchered the first three, didn't I? All right, so God. So I guess there's two ways to approach this. I need to write this out a little bit, guys. So apologies if this is not entertaining for y'all, but I kind of need to write this out. Okay, so there's kind of two ways I can do this. I can have the LLM try to create the proper filter and provide it as a complete string. Yeah, that's one option. I could also have the LLM provide me yeah, I don't know, man. Toad says, so I'm kind of busy with paperworks and all. Yeah, man. Sounds like you're super busy. And on top of going to school, trying to get permanent residency, sounds like you're super busy. So, yeah. But so the other complex thing about this is that the filters can also be compounded. So you can actually combine filters with and you can also negate things with a not operator. So basically, if I go this approach, right? If I have the LLM try to create the proper filter, provide as a complete string, the LLM the downside with this is I have to provide a description which informs the LLM about what is and is not a valid filter. Right? So that's the downside of doing it that way. The other approach I could take is I could have the LLM provide me like an array of filters where it provides me like a structured response of, let me make this a little bigger. Like a structured response of, Could be a structured response where it's like filter, and then, well, actually not filter. It could be like field. So the field we want to filter on, the operator we want to use, and then the value. So the benefit doing it this way is then I could tell the LLM like, hey, provide me the field name, which in this case, let's say it's username. The operator is equals, and the value is Steven. The one tricky thing here is I'm not sure how I would communicate. I'm not sure how I would communicate multiple, right? So let's say if I had another filter that was like, this is the unfun part of coding, is like trying to think through the problem. So field, or I guess you could say it's the fun part. I mean, depending on how you look at it. Okay, like status operator equals active. So in this case, then how do I have the LLM communicate that these should be ANDed or ORed together? Hey, Ducky Dev, what's up, man? How are you? I haven't wrote much code yet this stream, but not sure. I mean, it can really be whatever I want, because in this case, I'm basically dictating to the LLM what is a proper filter, how to. Let's see. Best way to represent filter rules. Actually, let's just ask Claude. Claude probably can give us some good ideas. Let's say I have the following filter, the following structures to represent one or more filters. Also, I know this is not valid JSON, but I'm sure Claude can figure it out. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to. Okay. So let's say, though, that these filters can be combined with and or operators. I think it can even support nested. Whoops, that's not the right thing. I think it can even support nested operators too. Yeah, you can use parentheses to control the order of operations. So let's say though that these filters can be kind with and or operators and nested. How would I best represent that in a structured way? Do you have any ideas? Suhas, lot of yeah, my son's home from school today. They had a field trip and he didn't want to go on it, so I've got a little one here today. Ducky Dev's been coding for 6 hours? Dang. You are in that flow state, man. Okay, this could work, huh? But then you've got this kind of almost like recursive structure. And now you've got a type where it's conditional versus operator. Huh. You could also not support operators in more complex conditions. Yeah, man, this just that looks like a complex structure to then process, but so I'd need to turn this, like for example, this one. I would need to turn this into username equals Steven. I don't know if this is the approach I want to take. This seems like a lot of work. This seems like a lot of work. Okay, guys, I'm off now. I have to go cycling. See you, Toad Stage. Have a good ride, man. Hope you have a good day. Thanks for stopping in the stream, man. Appreciate you. Okay, let's try to take this naive approach. Let's try to take this naive approach with just trying to describe a proper filter. So, this is not good. I know this is not going to work. I know the shortcut is often the longest way, but let's just see. So this is going to be a string. It needs to be of min length 1, and it needs to be required. Now I'm having second thoughts now. Maybe we don't take the shortcut. Maybe we don't take the shortcut. God, this is such a pain in the ass to deal with. Yeah. Okay. We're not gonna do this. We're gonna do this the hard way. So this is gonna be called filters. It's gonna be an array. I don't know. It needs to be. We need to have at least one. This is gonna be of type object for now, but we're gonna get more specific about that. What doesn't it like about that? Is there not a Z object? I don't know. I guess I don't know enough about Zod. Zod array of objects. Let's just do, I guess, any. Can it's like an any? Yeah, there's an any. There we go. And then we're gonna pass the filters down. Let's see, and then the structure of these filters is what's gonna be hard. So a filter is gonna look like this. It's gonna have a field name. It's gonna have some sort of operator, which this should be typed as well. And then it's gonna have a possible value. So it could. So some operators need values, some don't. I wonder. This is the uninteresting part of developing stuff like this. The other tools were all very quick to write. This one is going to be the one that takes a minute. Oh, this is not what I want to look at. This is not what I want to look at. I want to look at this. So this is the SDK that I'm using to talk to the underlying API that my MCP server is communicating. This is the underlying client library. Let's see. Here you go. Query filter. So how did I represent this? So I basically just added some logic here. So I'm wondering if I just rely on this underlying model that I already have built, where I say, okay, you give me the field name, I'll get the field ID for you, no big deal. You give me one of the operators that are available to you, and then you give me a value, and the value can be null. Yeah, I think because see, this is all this underlying behavior I already have modeled in this client library. So maybe this is simpler than I thought. Because if I can't construct the query filter, I can just propagate the error up to the LLM and just like, hey, you figure it out. Here's the error. Make the filter correct. Yeah. It doesn't solve my problem with combination operators though. Yeah, it doesn't solve my problem with combining filters though. This one has me thinking a little harder than normal. What do you guys got going on today? And see, now I'm changing the subject because I don't want to. I don't want to try to figure this out. It's been 40 minutes of me just talking. Not much code writing. Let's see, filter operators. Where's this located at? Source. Oh, you're chunking notes? Are you working on your You're working on your MCP too? Nice, Suhas. Let's see, query records. Quest data, params, query records request, number, can be a string or query filter. Yeah, so I just when I built this thing, I didn't even worry about the combination filters. I basically said, hey, if you want to build a more complex filter, you need to just pass a string instead of a simple query filter. Not model. Well, what are you trying to do with a RAG? Are you trying to build some sort of RAG pipeline? RAG pipelines are very fragile. Or that's how they feel to me. They always feel very fragile. But what's your use case, Suhas? Notes plus memory RAG. Interesting. So you have your notes. You'll chunk your notes. You'll vectorize and embed your notes. And then are you using Olama, I guess? Is that probably why you had the Olama docs at hand? You're going to use Olama's ability to retrieve through some sort of tool, or I guess are you gonna do the RAG ahead of time and then inject that into the prompt you send to the LLM? I'm curious now what you're doing, because it's a helpful distraction from what I can't figure out. Let's see, AI can do a function call to memorize some text. Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah, very cool. That's awesome, man. That sounds like fun. Sounds like fun. Well, I mean, I guess there's a kind of two ways, right? You can use memory. You can use, a vector database in the context of a RAG, right? Like you can have a RAG pipeline where like you take the user input and then you always immediately go and check for knowledge, right? And then you combine the user input with the knowledge and send that to the LLM to get a response. Or you can provide like a tool to the LLM and you can allow the LLM to decide, right, when it should go and retrieve additional knowledge. It's a quiet stream today. Yesterday's stream was crazy. There was like 50 people here yesterday. Suhas, what do you think is better? I think it depends on your use case. So if you're doing something like, if you're building like a Q&A type system, I think you would then always just by default say, okay, when a user asks a question, I'm gonna go see if there's any help docs that could possibly that I've embedded, and I'm gonna provide those up front in the request to the LLM to formulate a response. Like that use case to me makes sense to just always hit the vector DB, right, on every time, right, that you're gonna generate a response. But if it's more flexible than that, right, if your use case needs to be more flexible than that, then probably the tool function is the way to go, right? So then the LLM can kind of figure out, right? You use the semantic, the semantic mystical powers of the LLM to allow the LLM to kind of make a judgment call of like, is now a good time to go and retrieve some additional information or some additional context. Like you can kind of see that at work in some of the AI products like ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude, right? Some of these guys that now have deep search, where you ask it a question and sometimes it doesn't retrieve additional information, and then other times it does. Yeah, I think that sounds great, man. I think that sounds like a great. Say you figure it out. You know? Less viewers because you're coding, not talking. Yeah, that might be it. Yeah. But which is totally fine with me. I kind of like, it's nice when it's kind of a smaller crowd. I don't know how people manage. Emir. Hello, Emir. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore your hello, man. How are you doing? First time I've seen your name in my chat, so thanks for stopping in, man. I'm sure you guys are getting a good kick out of my son's playing his VR in the background. He's not normally home at this time, but today was a strange day. Schedules were a little different. Okay, so how about this? In order to solve this problem that I'm stuck on, how about we focus on just a single filter, and we don't worry about the complicated combination filters? How about we do that? So let's do Z object, and so we'll say. Actually, can you create a Zod? Does that work? Is that how that works? How do I create a Zod validation from a TypeScript type? Let's see. Zod. Zod validation schema from type. I guess you can't do that? Is that what this is saying? Oh wow, this is just, I don't want to do that. Is this just not a thing that Zod supports? Zod. Huh. It just seems redundant for me to have the Zod schema and then also have a TypeScript type. But maybe I don't have a ton of experience using Zod, so it's possible somebody could teach me a thing or two. Suhas, people only read the most extreme comments. I wonder why. That's not cool. We shouldn't only read the most extreme. Only focus on engaging comments. Why though? I feel like if people are here in my chat, I should be engaging with them. Let's see. This is going to be. So value is not always required. So this is wrong. This is optional. And then an operator is not a string. Operator is an enum. Oh, I can provide descriptions. I need to go back and add descriptions for this. So this is going to be an enum. And then this enum is going to be... Can Zod convert TypeScript enums to? Let's ask... I guess this time let's ask Claude instead of Google. Oh, you're meaning that's how they deal with overcrowd. You're saying if somebody has like 100 viewers or whatever, 1,000 viewers or something. I see. Yeah, that would be pretty overwhelming, I feel like. You know, if you watch the Primogen stream, I feel like it'd be very overwhelming to have that many people in your chat just like spamming messages. Let's see. I'm using Zod for validation. Is there any way I can convert an existing TypeScript enum to a Zod enum? Let's see what they come up with. So just pull out the values, huh? And then cast it. Native enum? Huh. I think I'm going to try this approach. Let's see this. Because I don't want to do this. This seems like a pain. Let's see. Object.values equals filter operators. And then this is going to complain, right? Because it needs to be, okay, so then we'll say as, and we'll just cast it to what we want it to be, string like that. Oops. Anytime I use as in TypeScript though, I feel dirty. feels like I'm doing something wrong. I guess we'll see if that works. Okay, so theoretically now what I'm saying is Claude should always provide me a field name, an operator, one of the operators I've given it, and then may or may not provide a value. Actually, it should provide a value. It should just be, it should be nullable. Maybe default it to null. try that. All right, now let's try to add the tool, which I don't have a lot of time left on stream, but see, Suha says if a text is longer than the threshold, then it will split it by subheadings. But should I split subheading and subheading, and the subheading B is combined, will not reach the threshold? Should I not split them? Well, the most important thing, right, is that however you chunk your document, the most important thing is that you try to preserve any of the semantic meaning when you want to try to chunk it in a way so that the chunks, when you convert them into embeddings, that those embeddings are going to be semantically similar to whatever you're going to query, whatever your query value is going to be when you go to look up those embeddings that you chunked, right? That's kind of how you should evaluate your chunking strategy. So it kind of depends on the documents that you're chunking with notes, with headings and things. You probably want to preserve the heading with its content, probably, right? I don't think you'd want to you'd want the heading with its subheadings, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know. You're probably gonna find yourself down a little bit of a rabbit hole, because there's this inherent problem with making sure, again, you chunk the text in such a way that those chunks of text, when once represented in your vector database, that you can actually query them and actually get correct or desired matches against the query, right? And then each of those semantic chunks, right, need to be useful. Once you've retrieved your top 10 results or your top 10 matches from your vector database, right, and you provide them as context to your LLM to provide a response, you want that the text that you inject into your prompt to actually be helpful to formulating the response. So yeah, I would probably err on the side of not separating the headings, I think, is what your question is getting at, because the subheadings are only relevant to the heading, right? Or the top. What I'm saying is, there's a hierarchy there, right? There's your notes. If you're having a heading, a subheading, a subheading, a subheading, there's a relationship, a semantic relationship there that you want to preserve. And so if you start splitting those apart, right, you might lose some of that. I don't know. It's hard. Chunking's the whole thing. It's and the best thing, it seems like there's not really a science to it. It's very much a trial and error type of thing. Chunk it this way with this size, and see, how if you get the results you're looking for, and if you don't get the results you're looking for, try a different strategy. So yeah, you might. So Suas, your best bet might to just get your RAG pipeline implemented, right? Get your RAG pipeline implemented with a chunking strategy. Then start running some queries against your RAG pipeline and start seeing what you get out, right? Given this input, are you getting good responses, good query results back? And if you're not, then you kind of need to go, you reevaluate your chunking strategy, and then maybe reevaluate how you're doing your embeddings, even maybe. It's a messy science, it seems like, at the moment. That probably was not very helpful either, so I apologize. Like here's a good way to illustrate the messiness of RAG pipelines, right? So let's say you're building, right? Let's say you're building, let me see if it'll help. Let's say you're building an FAQ. Oh my gosh, what is that? Like, let's say you're building a question and answer, a Q&A use case, right? And so let's say you've got a bunch of help docs, right? You've got a bunch of help documentation. This to me is like the quintessential RAG use case, right? You've got help documentation. You know, users are going to ask a question to the LLM to generate a response. And so what you want to do is you want to try to ground the LLM's response in some actual good documentation. And so what you would, kind of the naive way you'd go about this, right, is you'd take all your help documentation and you'd probably convert it into PDF or something, right? Maybe it lives on some website, and so you convert the HTML to PDF format. Then you chunk those documents and you store those in a vector database. So you basically have a bunch of pieces of text from help docs, and then what you would do, the further naive implementation would be, then every time the user sends a question, right? User sends a prompt, or user sends question. You then go and get the, oops, that's the wrong way. You go and get the, oh my gosh, I can't figure this out. You go to the vector DB and look for semantically similar things that you embedded from your help documentation. The problem here is that semantically, questions are often different from their answers, right? Semantically, they're often not similar. So you vectorized and embedded all these help documentation that are not similar to the questions that are being input. And so there's this kind of this like cat and mouse game you kind of have to play, where it's like you got to make sure that the chunks of text that you embed can be queried against with the expected inputs from your user, right? So like in that Q&A example, what you would probably end up having to do is you would probably actually generate a whole bunch of questions, a whole bunch of FAQs that could be answered by each one of the documents. Then you would vectorize and embed those FAQs, and you would link each of those embedded FAQs, those vectorized FAQs, to the help documentation they answer. And so then you would take the user question, use that to search against those embedded frequently asked questions, and like the top 10 similar questions, you would then go and get the help documentation that those are linked to, and you'd inject that into the LLM response. So it's kind of, I mean, it gets kind of messy really quick. Suhas, that's bloody clever. Yeah, like that's like where like it kind of becomes like, it's just weird. So that's why I say, Suhas, maybe start with just building your RAG pipeline first with a chunking strategy, with an embedding strategy. Then start trying to do what it is you want to do. Like you want to search for stuff in your notes. Start trying to query your vector DB or query your RAG pipeline with some inputs, and see what you get out, right? And then you might say, okay, I need to think about this a little bit more. Right? Do I need to transform this text before I chunk it, or do I need to embed something other than the notes to be able to figure out how to translate between the user input and the embedded content. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Hello, Stefan. How are you doing today, man? Congrats on 950 sub. Oh yeah, appreciate that, man. Yeah. So Australian. Yes, honestly, so I did a POC at work around this idea, Suhas, and I went down kind of a deep, dark rabbit hole on OpenAI's forums and a lot of places around the interwebs. And there's definitely recommendations about how to build RAG pipelines. But when you start getting into the specifics of like, how exactly should I chunk this text and how exactly should I embed it, it seems to be very specific to whatever your use case is. And then you have to just kind of work through a lot of experimentation to figure out the most effective, chunking strategy, the most effective embedding strategy. Stefan, I'm going to do giant coffee with you. Just tell me how much liters fit in that cup you have. Oh, you mean that big, okay, one sec. I'm going to go get it. I don't know how many. I'll go get it real quick. All right, I'm back. So what St1E, or what Stefan is referring to, is he said, whenever I get to 1,000 subs, I need to have a 1,000 sub stream where all I do is drink coffee out of this giant ass Yeti and sit in silence. And this Yeti can hold 64 ounces. So you need to brew 64 ounces of coffee if you wanted to match me sip for sip on the 1,000 the 1,000 sub special stream. Let's see, Stefan. By the way, do you have Nutlang source code by chance? I don't, Stefan. I have no idea what Nikki did with that project, with that Nutlang project. So, yeah, 64 ounces. That's how big it is. Please, not freedom units. Okay, hold on one sec. Void Knight. Which language is this? This is TypeScript. Void Knights. Let's see. This is 1.89 liters. Yeah, so like 2 liters. You're right. Your conversion is almost spot on. I forget not everybody uses freedom units. I apologize. I mean, I did get a degree in science, so you'd think I would be more accustomed to using the metric system, but, it's the American in me. Yeah, I have no idea what private person is saying there. I don't understand the Cyrillic language. We need app name. We need fields. We're going to have a filter. Filter. And then we're going to have page number. Yeah, just like that. And then we're going to throw an error if the client isn't set. And then the rest of these, the reason why I'm only validating the client is because the rest of these parameters should be being caught by Zod validation, which you might say is naive, but I think it's fine for what I'm doing. And then here we're going to have a try catch block. And we're just going to do basically what we do on all the others. We're going to say like that. And then we're going to need to create a method to loop over all the records and transform them in much the same way. In much the same way we're going to transform the get records tool. So this is almost identical to what we want to do. But instead of get records here, we're going to have query records. But I'm not going to have time to implement this. So let's add a to-do right here. To-do. Implement actual logic to query records. And then there's going to be a whole complex thing we need to do with these filters, which I'll have to figure out. So no promise that I do that on stream. That might be something I do off stream. So, hold on. Why do you even use that metric system? Is just so superior. I don't know why. I don't know why we don't use the metric system. It's an American thing. We should adopt it. I 100% think we should adopt the metric system. It's just Americans like to be different, you know? Individualism. Private person start. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what private person's talking about. Void Knight. Just started learning C++. Already feeling like walking on Legos, but I want to learn it. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever take a bite out of C++, Void Knight. So you're gonna take one for the team there. But I do hope you stick with it, man. You know, I hope you persevere. Suhas, I have 400 followers, so I'm half as popular as Steve. Well, I'm not popular at all. You're way more popular than I am, Suhas. All right, guys. Well, I'm at my hour time. I'm actually over. I'm at hour 15, so I'm gonna have to work a little later to make up for my little longer lunch period here. Stefan, when are we learning PHP together? I don't know, man. I don't know. Probably never. There's so many things I'm supposed to have been already learning, right? I'm supposed to be learning Rust. I'm supposed to be learning Go. I'm having a hard time keeping up. But maybe that'd be fun. Evil Bunny, sorry, I'm new here. No, Evil Bunny, you do not need to apologize. Thank you for being new here, man. Appreciate you coming into the stream. I'm working on what's called a model context protocol server. So I'm not sure if you're terribly familiar with like the generative AI space, but that's what I've been working on this stream. No, let's learn Holy C. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. Me to last go C++ C. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think Go, Rust, TypeScript, C#. I think that's enough languages, honestly, for one lifetime. All right, guys. I'm going to head back to work, but I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. If you're new here, we do have a Discord. You can head to my channel links and find the Discord invite there if you're curious. Otherwise, I'm usually live around this time, about 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, and sometimes around 10 or 9 o'clock Central Standard Time in the morning. So if you're around and want to hang out, join in. Otherwise, I'll probably see you guys in another stream or another short, another live, or something like that. All right, guys. Suhas, have a good day. Stefan, have a good day. Evil Bunny, have a good day. Void Knight, see you, man. Hope you have a good day. Private person, if you're still here. Rock and roll, buddy. All right, guys. Y'all have a nice Wednesday. And if it's already Thursday for you, have a nice Thursday. I'll see you guys later. Bye, y'all.